G'day there folks, it's Connie here again from Marquee Industries, and we are back with some more stories from Reddit. As always, if you enjoy these videos, be sure to hit like and subscribe, and also the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Alrighty, let's get right into it. Alrighty folks, we're on True Off My Chest. This one was written by user Own Customer, and it's titled, I don't want to marry my fiance anymore. I don't know what to do. I, 26 female, have been dating my current fiancé Mark, 27, for a little over 7 years now. We are not actually engaged, but claim to be because we've dated longer than what he insisted was the dating phase to see if we could really stay together, 4 years. Anyways, for some time now, I would say about 2 years, things have really taken a turn for the hills, especially since the beginning of this year. We both work and go to school full time, but I'm the only one who does the domestic work, takes care of our dog, etc. I work, go to school, come back home, clean, cook, get his stuff ready, walk and feed, play, train our dog, the whole 9 yards. From time to time he would help if I reminded him, asked him, or complained enough. This has only begun to get worse as time has passed. I've told him for months on end that I do not feel loved, supported, appreciated, cared for, etc. by him anymore. I try to give everything to him, but there are a lot of times where he only wants to be on his phone, watch TV, or only be half to a third present. For example, he says that he'll walk our dog when he gets back from work constantly, but he hasn't for months. He says that he is exhausted and tired from work and school, while saying that he understands where my frustrations are coming from, but still does nothing to alleviate the burden. Our intimate life has become obsolete, but he has begun to watch pornography multiple times a week, even though I told him that I consider that cheating and it's breaking my boundaries. He told me that he's just going through a hard time, and just can't find it in him to be interested in me, because it takes too much time, effort, and mental energy for him. I asked if he still found me attractive, and all he said was, yeah, I can still get off, but not like I used to anymore. I have suggested couples cancelling a few months ago and even found many that can work in our schedules, but he refuses to look into them or even try to go. He keeps saying that we just have to try harder together, actually communicate better and compromise a lot more than what we are now. I was sitting on our bed a few days ago while he was having his escapade in the bathroom again, and I asked if I could see myself still marrying him. My automatic answer was no. No, I couldn't, because I couldn't imagine continuing to live like this. But I'm grieving for not having a relationship because I feel I would have wasted all these years on someone that I'm in love with, but I'm not happy with anymore. I'm so miserable, stressed and exhausted. I want to escape and cry. Yeah, sad realizations, but at least you've come to them now and not after you get married. Opie's still really young. She's got plenty of time to figure it out if she breaks up with him. Let's go to the comments. Full stop referring to him as your fiancé. If there is no ring and no proposal, you are his girlfriend, not his fiancé. He has no plans to actually marry you and is using you to make his life easier. Throw the whole man away. I'd start taking the steps to move out and move on. A situation like this is never easy when you've invested so much in the person, but you don't want to be married to someone like that. If he prefers to jerk off to porn instead of having sex with you, sorry to say this, but then you're nothing but a live-in maid to him. You take care of everything while he does nothing. Break it off. I'm pretty sure you and your dog will be better without him. You deserve love and respect, and that man certainly isn't giving it to you. Yeah, 100%. Hard to disagree with those comments there. Let's go to an update 8 days later. It has been about a week since I posted, and during that week, unfortunately, I found out that I am pregnant. My ex-boyfriend saw the tests in the trash and became enraged because he thought I was hiding it from him. I wasn't, I was just in shock because we both used protection. He told me that raising a child together could have saved us if I wasn't such a selfish bee. He then accused me of cheating because there's no way I could get pregnant by him if I'm on birth control. I asked if he was dumb, and that's when things hit the fan. Words were said, hands were thrown, and ultimately my dog bit him and the police were called. We both gave statements and they made him leave the apartment. I'm lucky to have some friends in the police department that have checked on me every night since then. I also have some friends who are helping me pack and move so that he can have the apartment. I'm unsure on what to do with this pregnancy as I've never wanted or have interest in kids. However, I am thankful that I have friends who will support me no matter what decision I make. I'm still in shock of what happened. I've never experienced such fear from my ex-boyfriend as I did in that moment. I don't know how or why things took such a turn for the worse, but they did. I've been thinking and wondering of how I've missed the signs and flags for possibly so long. I have even more concerns about my dog. He has never bit or even tried to bite someone in the 7 years that he's been alive, but he did my ex, which brings me even more worry, fear and anxiety. I have concerns that the county I live in will make me put him down because he's a pit bull mix, but I'm hoping with backing from my friends, the police officers of that night, the vet, etc., will help me keep him. I want to say thank you to everyone who replied. I appreciate the support, kindness and encouragement. I know it should have been an obvious or simple answer or thing to do, but that's my own personal ignorance. Thank you. Yeah, sounds like the dog was just protecting her. They tend to be a pretty good judge of character, and it's clear that the dog was not liking this scumbag. Let's read some more comments. Dogs are protective of their pack. Your dog sees you as family and therefore attacked the threat. With the police report, he more than likely will just be quarantined and given back to you, but chances are that may not even happen either. I wouldn't worry about it at all. You need to take a hard look at your current situation because if you have a child with him, he will forever remain in your life. If you think his behaviours are bad now, wait until you're carrying his child or that precious innocent one is here. The best thing for you in your situation would be to abort, get a clean break and leave him for your past. Now for another update, 1 month later. It has been about a month since I've updated, and I'm not even sure if anyone even cares or remembers, but I thought I would give a final update. First, I want to address some things that have been said and mentioned since then. I'm sorry if this is long in advance. 1. I would like to address that many, I'm supposing men, have come to ask me of which hands were thrown, why, and the possibility of me deserving it. I will say that once you get into a situation where you're verbally abused, then shoved with so much force you hit the floor and lose your breath, that you too put up the best fight that you can. However, I hope that you never have to feel the helplessness and the powerlessness that goes into being pinned down, punched, scratched, and more, while all you can do is barely wiggle your feet and hope for a moment that he stops so you can attempt to scream for help. 2. Yes, there are missing details because I did not feel all details were necessary. I should not have to recount the times of shoves, slaps, punches and verbal insults thrown at me to justify the final outcome. 3. When you grow up with abuse, that is all you know, so it's hard to register it as abuse. My mother raised me with a very heavy hand and the idea of tough love. In most cases, she would slap, punch, shove and emotional and verbally abuse me, just as he did. Growing up having a parent tell you that them hitting you hurts you more than them and that they're doing it out of love, that is all you come to know and understand as love. And 4. With the many who privately messaged me about taking into consideration adoption, I ask, are you doing that with the full understanding of adoption and all the ugly or just the biased moral ego that has been instilled? Just because people pay a lot doesn't mean they'll treat the child right or well. There are many cases where adoptees are neglected, abused, etc. Adoption in itself is heavily influenced by religious manipulation, racism, homophobia, and classism. Most adoptive couples do not want open adoption for fear of having their child stolen or taken away by the birth parents. There are also adoptive parents who turn the adoptee against the birth parents for multiple reasons. The biggest thing I have to say, I have to destroy my whole body, mental and emotional health just to bring someone else the joy and happiness they couldn't have in the first place. I have to carry the weight of being a birth parent that is shamed, ridiculed and bullied by outsiders for being irresponsible, a possible addict, etc., while the adoptive parents are labelled as heroes and saviours. Plus, in looking at birth parent support and help, where is it? There is little to none for birth parents because they are forgotten for the sake of the adoptive parents and adoptee as their job is done. I implore everyone who suggests adoption as a solution to all problems when it comes to pregnancy and choices to actually look at adoption for all of its dark sides as well. Adoption is not always sunshine and roses. We cannot forget or neglect that for biases and ideals that have been given. Please stop with the saviour complex. Actual update. Things have changed in the last month. I have officially moved into my own apartment. My ex and I's last apartment ended up getting destroyed during Hurricane Helene, which I felt was the way of the universe telling me something positive. My dog is with me officially now. He did have to go into quarantine for about a week. They behaviour checked him in a lot of situations and he did great on all of them. Fortunately, since there were reports and support for him by friends, vets, vet techs, neighbours, the police, etc., he did not have to be put down. However, he does have to wear a muzzle when out in public spaces around men. He has started to adjust to our new living situation, but is doing much better. My pregnancy came and went in a way. Between my ex, dealing with the courts and police, moving, situation with my dog, Hurricane Helene, mental health issues, etc., I did end up miscarriaging at 11 weeks, 3 days. I'm thankful it went as smoothly as something like that can go, especially with what has been happening to women in the same situation. I've been trying to get my uterus taken out and my tubes tied, but since I live in such a red state and area, it has been hard. They all talk about the what-ifs when dealing with a future husband and his wants of children. I've been feeling discouraged and mad, but I want to keep trying. My ex has tried many times to contact me, including through my mother, who I don't speak with anymore. He's shown up to my job and asked when I'm working, where I am, etc. I've only recently blocked him as I've been trying to get evidence to get a restraining order on him. I have what is needed, like threats, verbal abuse and destruction of property, so I hope it all goes well. The police friends that I have been really helpful and still continue to check up on me. Apparently DV cases are common in my area and they don't want me to end up as they normally see women here do. I am in therapy and have been trying to keep a positive outlook. I wanted to thank everyone for their kindness, support, encouragement and knowledge. I cannot thank you all enough. Opie replies to a comment and comments further on her thoughts regarding adoptions. I find that interesting. Are you also looking at the stats of adopted children in cases of suicide, mental illness, addiction, discrimination, etc. because of adoption? Are you also looking at stats including transracial inter-country adoption? Of course there's always positives to adoption, yet there are also many negatives as well that are overlooked. How many adoptees can claim to have positive outcomes and experiences, yet not realise until they're older that they actually didn't? Many adoptees still grow up without feeling connected, validated and even properly seen. You may say that that is life with a lot of families, which is terrible in itself. Now imagine feeling that as an adopted child with people who you already have an internal disconnect with. Many also don't get to tell their own stories or get to express themselves and the negative feelings that come with being adopted. There is also the road of birth parents who are often ostracized for giving up their child, who do not get helped postpartum, who could never see their child again because the adoptive parents don't want them to, etc. Yes, there are positive examples such as Simone, Jimmy Butler, Aaron Judge, etc., but that doesn't mean all are. We also have to take into consideration that biased, manipulative narratives and untold stories that are never spoken to save others. I encourage you to Adoption Unfiltered and other works by all parties, adoptees, birth parents and adoptive parents. We must read from all point of views, all sides and more before saying things like adoption are positive by looking at specific stats and people to fit our own narrative. Adoption, like many other things, is not for everyone and is not always a true solution. We cannot act like it always is. Yeah, some interesting thoughts there in regards to adoption. What do you guys think? But ultimately, yeah, a pretty good ending for OP here. I feel like she's got enough to, finally get a restraining order on this guy, which is probably the last thing she needs to tie everything up here. Anyway, we're going to leave that one there. As I said, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this one down below. Either way, we're going to move on to another story. Okay, staying on Drew Off My Chest, this one was written by user Not Moving In, and it's titled, My boyfriend and I were supposed to move in together. 2 weeks ago, he bought a $87,000 truck without telling me. I refused to move in with him. Now folks, I did touch on this one a while back when it came out, but there's some new updates, so let's hit it up again. I'm very annoyed. He didn't even speak to me about it. We had so many discussions about moving in together, getting married, and then he goes and purchases a truck $2,000 more than his yearly salary. If you're asking, how can a truck be $87K? Well, that's the price you get when you put every addition you want on it. He showed me the truck expecting me to be excited, and I was livid. When he bought this truck, we were only a month from moving in together. We got into a bad argument where he told me it was his money and he could do whatever he wanted with it. So I said fine, and I told him I'm not comfortable moving in with him anymore. I asked my landlord if my apartment was still available and if I could renew my lease, and they said yes. Now my boyfriend is saying he can't afford his place and his truck. I don't feel bad. You should have thought of that before buying something so expensive without talking to your girlfriend of 2 years. I have had some of his friends' girlfriends reach out to me and say I should support him, and one even say that I'm not loyal, and this shows I wouldn't support him if we were married, since I run away when finances get bad. That's bullcrap. He didn't lose his job or get hurt. He bought an expensive item without discussing it. I've been trying to get him to return the truck because it's already affecting his finances badly. He's only had this truck for 2 weeks, and he's worried that in the next month or two, he won't be able to cover all the expenses he usually has. This past weekend we had another argument, and I think our relationship is going to end. I'm not helping him pay for his truck, and I'm not moving in with him. I've asked for a break, and will be thinking about what to do. Edit, I appreciate the different opinions everyone has given me. I have a lot to think about. To answer 2 questions, no, he doesn't need the truck. He works from home, and if he has to check in at work, he has an office. Also, his friends and their girlfriends know about this issue because he asked for their views when we went to a get-together last week. Only 2 girlfriends reached out to me to tell me I wasn't being supportive. The others have minded their business. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I said it back then, and I'll say it now again. This guy is a clown. Absolute clown. Also, those sorts of trucks are an absolute blight on society, and you can't change my mind. They're overpriced, often built like crap, and way too big for any practical circumstance. Like, I come from country Australia, and we have trucks, like we have Hiluxes and utility trucks. But they're useful for what they do, and they're not egregiously sized like the cars I see going around the United States and even Canada as well. Like, unless you're towing like huge stuff every day, there's no reason to have a truck like that. It's just a dick measuring contest at this point, and I cringe every time I see one. Concrete cowboys, man. Geez, sorry, I got a little heated there. Let's go to the comments. Yeah, comments. When finances get bad must really mean you won't foot the bill when he is irresponsible and makes bad financial decisions. It is his money, but he is already struggling to afford things now. If for some reason he's unable to work, he will not only expect you to pay his portion of the bills, but also his hefty truck payment. Do not move in and do not combine incomes with him. He has shown he is impulsive and has issues with reckless spending. I had an ex do the same thing. He bought a $60,000 truck on the morning we were supposed to sign the contract for our new apartment. The insurance alone was $700 a month, so I kept the apartment I already had and stupidly let him move in with me. Even more foolish, I authorized him on my credit cards eventually. His truck ended up getting repossessed, and I ended up $10,000 in debt from the cards he used and wouldn't pay. I wish I'd been as smart as you are. Good for you for not letting him suck you into his pit of irresponsibility. Edit, the insurance was this cost in 2006 for him. He was 21. He got a DUI at 17 after he drunkenly crashed a car. He lost his license for 2 years and never had an insurance policy of his own. Good job recognizing a bad situation when you see one. This dude fully expected you to supplement his lifestyle after moving in together. All his money would have gone to paying that truck, leaving you stuck with the lion's share of the bills, and that's why he's panicking now. Stay in your own apartment, OP. Yeah, no. You were right to put yourself first. He's going to end up drowning in debt. At least you won't be there to see it. Would imagine he thought he could make you take the majority of rent and household expenses while he just put money on his truck. The minute he was expecting you to help finance his life, it ceased to be his money. You absolutely did the right thing. That man was going to use you to pay for his expensive-ass truck. Ask your friends' girlfriends if they want to give up their life to finance his mistakes, because you sure as hell won't, and shouldn't. It'll only get worse if you enable him. He'd be coming home with a Ferrari next. Okay guys, on to an update. Yeah, so I broke up with him, mainly because I realized we aren't financially compatible. Before I go into what happened, I do want to say something. I understand we weren't married, but we were both moving in together into a new place, and had several discussions about this move and our plans for the future, including marriage. For the people private messaging me saying it's his money and he can do whatever he wants, or you're only 2 years into a relationship, you're not a wife, I know that, and I've never asked what's in his bank account or told him what to do financially. I'm aware it is his money, but I also know his financial situation, and he was making decisions without my input that if we were to stay together would not only affect him, but also our relationship and our financial situation for years to come. I will die on this hill. This is not okay, and if it's okay for you, that's fine, but for me, if we make a financial plan and you make a huge decision without me, I won't be okay with it, and that's a big reason why I backed out of moving into a new apartment with him. I would have never made a decision like this without his input at all. The main reason why we decided to move in together was to take the next step in our relationship, but also to pay down our debts. I now have $22,000 debt from student loans and a car. When I met him though, it was around $60,000, and I was basically living on credit cards. Within the first couple of months of us dating, I saw how hard he worked, and with a salary of $85,000, he was making huge progress in paying off his loans and credit cards. On my end at the time, I was only making $50,000. I honestly saw his work ethic and was like, wow, and got serious about my debt. I got a second part-time job where I was making $32,000 a year, bringing my salary to $82,000. I did that so that I could pay off my debts faster, but also so that we could be on equal footing when we moved in together, and he didn't have to pay significantly more in living expenses than me when we had more debt. We did a complete budget months before we moved in together and realized that we would each have $700 extra a month to put towards our own individual budgets. This is why the purchase of this truck was so surprising to me. We had planned this move for months. We had a budget and he destroyed that plan with the truck. If he wanted a new car, there are plenty of cars he could have gotten that would have fit into the $700 monthly surplus he had. Anyway, for the past few days before we broke up, he tried to show me that this truck was a good financial purchase and we could still move in together. He told me that he had actually budgeted for this and could show me how he could afford this. I wanted to hear him out, so I went to his place and he had 2 budgets. He said he had been thinking of getting this truck for some time and he'd worked out a budget beforehand. He showed me the first budget, and after his truck, insurance, expenses and his debts, he was left with $115 for the month. I noticed with the first budget he didn't include groceries, his hobbies, going out or even gas for his car. I asked him how $115 was enough to live off for an entire month. I asked him how he could afford all of this and his truck, and if he planned to give up some things. He said no, he didn't plan to give up anything, and that he could just make everything work in his budget. I asked him what if he had an emergency or needed gas for his truck, and he just kept saying he would work it out, without explaining how. After I saw the first budget, I asked to see the documents for the car, and that's how I found out the truck price was $95,000 total after taxes, registration and fees. He traded in his reliable 2003 Toyota and all his savings to get a loan at 14% for 72 months. His monthly payment is now $1,966 and insurance is $573. He also still has student loans which are significant. I keep telling him $115 left over monthly wasn't enough. That's when he showed me his second budget, which had a combined higher monthly income. I asked him if he was getting a second job, and he said due to his first job relying on him to be on call, he couldn't. I asked where the income was coming from, and this man said, "Well, you're getting a raise soon." I froze because I had mentioned this raise once, months ago. My first job is my career job, and I work in a field where when you hit certain milestones, you get a pay bump. In September, if my raise is approved, I will go from $50,000 to $80,000, and with my second job, my total yearly income will be $112,000. But getting the raise isn't a guarantee. You have to meet certain criteria, and if you don't, you have to wait 3 months before trying again. When he said that, I was quiet, and then I said, "So you planned a budget that included additional income that I wouldn't get for at least 6 months, and income that I might not even get in September?" He said when I got my raise, the ratio of what he would pay would decrease and he would have more disposable income. I asked him why it was okay for him to plan budgets with my income, but yet I had no say in how he spent his. He couldn't answer that. I told him I had no issue with paying more bills if I got a raise, but the fact that he banked on that, didn't discuss it, and now expects me to be okay with this is ridiculous. I also said there's no way I wouldn't be paying more with the first budget because he wouldn't have been able to survive on $115. I told him he didn't communicate, and this is on him because he made huge financial plans without discussing anything. Finally, I told him I would never have done any of this without going to him first, because I thought we were a team that was building something. I ended things the next day, and he's been trying to reach out, but I'm not interested. He has financially crippled himself with this truck. If with my income now he could barely make it, he sure isn't making it on his own. I really hope that things work out for him and he's able to keep his truck and recover, but I'm not paying the consequences for such a massive financial mistake that is going to hugely affect him for years to come. If I were to stay, this financial decision affects me as well, and would continue to affect both of us for years. Again, this is different from becoming ill or losing a job. He chose this and refuses to budge and fix it. I now realize we're not financially compatible, and that's okay, and I wish him the best. Now for some more comments. I have to ask how are you handling this with so much grace? I would be ticked if my ex, who I was so emotionally invested in, pulled this on me. It's not just that he made an irresponsible decision, it's the fact that he thought he could leech off of you and your money to pay it, and somehow blindside you to get away with that. You don't badmouth him a single time and did the right thing immediately, break up, and have already accepted that you both are incompatible. I'm in awe of how decisive and yet non-aggressive you were. I wish I could be that way. Opie replies, to answer your question about why I'm not bad-mouthing him, it's because I'm sad. I'm sad about what he did to himself and that I have to leave because he isn't seeing how bad this is. I'm sad that just a few months ago I was planning us living together and a life, and now that's gone. Most of all, I'm sad for him. He was doing so well and he rubbed off on me immensely in terms of paying off debt and watching your spending. I'm sad that he threw away all his hard work. Dumping on him even more isn't worth it because when he realizes this mistake, it will be so bad for him. I don't see a point to do it, but I'm not judging anyone who would in these circumstances. You are very smart. I have a wife like you and we're going to retire comfortably because of that. I am so proud of you. I really wish more young women were as firm in their boundaries and as wise about finances as you are. Mind you, this doesn't make him a bad person, but it does give you an insight into what the future would be like with him. Absolutely. Now for a new update. Hi everyone. So I posted a few months ago about a situation I was dealing with my ex and him buying a car without telling me. I really doubted myself when I first made my first post because I'd received such strong negative reactions from other people about me wanting to back out of the move. I appreciate the comments I got, not only on the posts but through the messages as well. It really helped solidify for me that these feelings I had about the situation shouldn't be ignored. So thank you guys for responding because it saved me financially. Looking back at the situation now, months later, I can see that I was being set up to be financially abused. When I broke up with my ex, I thought that we were financially incompatible, and that unfortunately it took this large purchase happening to see it. But I can see now that's not the case. My ex made a plan in his head, and what made sense to him was for me to pay most of the expenses, and he thought this was okay, and that I should be okay with it too. Even though I can see the reality of what he was trying to do, I can't hate my ex because he helped start me on this path of looking at my finances. I remember when we first started dating and I went to pay for an item I was getting and my card declined, and without batting an eye, even though it was a little embarrassing, I took out another card and paid. I was used to this happening every once in a while because I was literally living paycheck up to paycheck. I'm not putting down anyone where that's the case, but in my situation then, I was living way above my means. I would justify every single want and get it, and I thought because I was making minimum payments and on time, I wasn't as bad as the next person. When the situation with my card happened, after we got back to my ex's car, he kindly asked if this type of thing happens all the time, and I told him sometimes, and he basically gave me advice. He did not try to force me to stop spending. He asked me to track my purchases and recommended a few apps. The first 2 months that we were seeing each other, he would encourage me every other day or every once in a while to just track what I spent, to shop like I usually did, but to track everything. Being able to see how much I was spending, especially when I broke it down into categories, was astounding. There was one month I spent $68 on bagels. It wasn't for work, it wasn't for other people, it was me stopping at a bagel place every morning and getting a bagel. I would sometimes get variations, which is why the bagels cost so much. Once I realized how much I was spending on stupid things, my ex helped me make a plan that would work for me, and that plan has continued to consistently work. I've added to it and changed things or tweaked things as my financial status has continued to improve, and so far so good. This is why I don't have any bad feelings about my ex. He never pushed for me to pay my bills in front of him. He never saw credit card statements on apps, nothing. He only kept encouraging me to look at my finances and fix them. He helped give me the foundation to start to manage my finances, and I thought in my head that we were on the same page. And because he was such a stickler for finances and he was so frugal, that is why this truck purchase was such a surprise to me. It was unplanned, not discussed, was a large amount of money, and just knowing the general view of how much debt he had, I know without a doubt that there was no way he could afford this truck. I'm not trying to paint my ex as a saint. I'm explaining why he had such a positive impact on me financially. So when the truck purchase happened and he refused to budge, I honestly was shocked, and seeing how bad this situation was, I had to walk away. It's been about 6 months since everything's happened, and I'm doing very well. I recently paid off my student loans last month. I now only have my car left, so a few grand left to pay. I also have small savings. Because of that, I've changed the focus and I'm putting the majority of my income now towards my car. I'm not rich by any means, but I'm definitely living within my means, and I'm okay with that. The last two things I'm updating on are my raise and my ex's truck. I had a few people message me about the raise, and unfortunately I did not get it due to a big mistake I made on a project. Once I realized the mistake, I knew that it would jeopardize things for my raise because I made the mistake so close to my valuation, and I didn't get the raise. But I fixed the mistake, and when I get re-evaluated after 3 months, I'm hopeful I get it this time. Losing the possibility of the raise made me realize even more that I had made the right decision, because I would be so screwed right now if I hadn't ended my relationship. With my ex, we've spoken once, and that's when we broke up. I cut communication completely because he was still trying to fix things without addressing the truck and the fact that he was keeping it. I know from a person close to him that actually 4 months after we broke up, he did a voluntary repossession. I also know the truck is gone because he deleted all the pictures he had of it. I was actually relieved to hear that for him because he can hopefully start to fix the situation he got himself in. I really do want the best for my ex, and I don't know the thought process that led to him getting this truck or what could have influenced him, but hopefully he can get back to where he was and make more improvements. The relationship is finished, and there is no hope of rekindling anything. Even though he returned the truck, I could never go back to him because the trust is gone. It wasn't only the money, it was also him making such a vital decision without me, expecting me to go along with it, and then vilifying me when I had viable concerns. I can't move past that. Yes, money isn't everything, but I can't stop thinking about what my life would be like now had I stayed. My student loans would not be paid off, we would both be broke, we would both be in worse off financial positions. All of these things would have affected the relationship negatively, which would have made it unhealthy. I'm glad we broke up, and I have forgiven him for what he tried to do to me. I stand and I will continue to stand by the view that finances are a breakable offence, especially when your partner isn't listening to you and does something that will affect both of you. If you don't agree, that's fine, but these last few months have proved that to me. So that's my longish update, and again I really want to say thank you guys for responding to my first post. I honestly was leaning towards staying with him and not moving in, and I think in the long run I would have been financially devastated and taken advantage of right now, and because of the different opinions I read, it made me realize how bad not only the situation was, but also how bad it could get, so thanks. A very small humble brag, I posted my paid in full student loan email on my profile, so if you want to see that, you can click that post, but you don't have to. Sorry, I'm just so proud of that fact. Okay, bye. And some final comments. Congrats, very adult of you. What apps did you use? Opie says, hi, thank you for the comment. I used a basic spending tracker app on my phone. I then had an Excel spreadsheet which I update once a week to keep track of expenses. Finally, I used a budget binder with envelopes for cash, and I used this primarily for my wants. It worked for me to just pay cash for them until I got enough self-control to not splurge. It was trial and error trying to figure out what worked for me, but I eventually did. So he waited until they were about to be living together and decided her money was our money and she would supplement his living expenses and bought a vehicle he didn't need and couldn't afford. Man, she dodged one heck of a bullet. I worked in the oil fields for a few years in my early 20s, and this was so common. Young guys making $100K a year and living in the company housing 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, but would be broke as hell. Almost all of them drove newer lifted diesel trucks, smoked 2 packs a day, and were borderline alcoholics. I saw so many guys there get 70k trucks repossessed in under a year, and that wasn't including the tuners and exhaust and lift kits and wheels they purchased. Even worse was a couple of the younger guys getting DUIs and having their trucks seized by the police and still being on the hook for the bill on top of the DUI expenses. Before I quit, I purchased a diesel for $35,000 that was almost new and I actually planned to put to work, which 14 years later I still own and use for my business. I consider myself fairly educated on car loans as well as vehicles in general. I've brokered over a dozen car purchases for family and friends over the years. It kills me watching somebody decide they need a truck as a daily driver, despite never hauling a trailer of any kind or even something in the bed of a truck. I know there's statistics out there talking about how few truck owners ever tow or haul anything in the bed, and it's insane. I always try and talk people out of it, and it never works. At least I've convinced a few of them not to buy diesels to haul their four-wheeler or fishing boat up north a few times a year. I mean, it's good things are better, but I still can't get over the fact that interest rate is 14%. Jesus. I'm sorry, I can't stop laughing at the ex deleting all the photos of his truck like he would with an ex-girlfriend. I don't understand people who buy unnecessary trucks, and frankly I don't want to. They're just cosplaying as people with crap to do. I've known so many men who've spent an exorbitant amount of money on a vehicle they don't need and can't afford. So many. I don't understand what causes this sort of thinking. Marriage is ruined, rent unpaid, no future savings, all for a vehicle. And it's not even just the cost, it's the absurdity of the truck itself. I knew a guy who bought a full-size Tacoma for $75k, and this was over a decade ago, fully loaded for every conceivable feature for commuting. Commuting. Dude didn't camp, haul a boat, go off-roading, or do anything at all that necessitates a large truck. He also didn't discuss it with his wife, who then left him because they already had over $50k on a consolidation loan that they'd just started paying down. Genius McGee here took that to mean that the extra cash freed up from consolidating their debt could be used to buy the truck. Someone needs to explain the reasoning to me because I am gobsmacked at these people. Yeah, this is exactly the problem I was hinting at before. I'm glad some people agree with me. Personally, I don't think you can really pin it down on one thing, as to why they're buying these trucks, but I imagine a big reason would just be ego. Plain and simple. They just want to feel big, driving around a truck. And like that comment said, make people think that they actually have things to do when they don't. What do you guys think? Let me know your theories down in the comments. Anyway, yeah, that's the end of that story. I'm glad she got rid of him and, is doing well now. And hopefully he learns from his mistakes, but who knows. Anyway, let's move on to another story. Okie dokie, jumping on over to Petty Revenge. This one was written by user Scorpion Nidomina, and it's titled, Neighbour kept parking in my spot, so I gave her a taste of her own medicine. Alright, so this might not be the pettiest thing out there, but it felt amazing at the time. My apartment complex has assigned parking spots, and each unit has one spot that's, yours. For weeks, my new neighbour started parking in my spot after work. At first I let it slide, figured she just got confused or whatever, but when it kept happening, I left a polite note asking her to please use her own spot. The next day I come home and yep, her car is there again. She crumpled my note and left it under her wiper, like she was proud of ignoring it. So I decided I'd just use her spot instead. Every day without fail, I parked right in her designated spot. It took 2 days before she started leaving notes on my car asking me to stop. I kept switching spots with her until she finally knocked on my door to confront me. I just acted clueless and told her, "Oh, I thought we were doing a swap since you were using mine." She sputtered out some excuse, but she finally stopped. Now every time I pull into my spot and see her car not there, it's a tiny little win. What did that woman expect, honestly, taking someone else's car spot? I thought initially that she probably took it because her partner or something was parked in the other spot, but I guess not. It just doesn't make sense, does it? Let's go to the comments. I had a neighbour do this, taking my assigned covered parking spot. I parked directly behind them and went to bed. Luckily, there was enough space for others to get past my car. The next morning, the parking a-hole banged on my door and demanded I move my car. I made them wait nearly an hour while I showered and dressed before releasing my automotive hostage. They were very late for work and never parked in my spot again. Wait, why would she use your spot if hers was empty and then get angry? I'm kind of confused on what happened here. When I used to live in an apartment with assigned parking spots and people decided to park in my spot, I would complain to the office. They told me I could just have them towed and to call X company, so I did, every single time. Man, it was so satisfying. Yeah, that's a good idea. I also like the idea of parking them in and then making them wait, like that first comment. That was brilliant. Anyway guys, we're going to leave that one there. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Maybe you got a similar story you'd like to share. Anyway, that's it from me today. Hope you guys enjoyed those stories. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good day. Cheers.